because one of the things I wanted to talk about, which is the no questions asked simple extensions, is now redundant given the new policies that have come up with simple extensions, which I'll touch on. But yeah, other than that, just some quick discussion on some simple strategies which you can make to improve your relationships with your students. So these include pre and early semester surveys, weekly look-aheads, personalized emails, and being their biggest fans. So we'll be covering those 4. Okay, for a quick introduction, I am a relatively new coordinator. I've been coordinating only for about a year at this point. And when I first started coordinating, I wanted to check, especially in the online environment, I want to get a feel of how I could improve engagement with students. So I asked one of my colleagues, Dr. Young No, about what his opinions are on how this could be done. Now, Dr. Young is a very popular teacher in the School of Biomedical Engineering. So he gave me some good advice. He simply said, show them you care. And I believe that showing them you care is actually a central tenet of, that's all right, central tenet of improving teacher-student relationships. Okay, no problem. Okay, so because I was a new coordinator, I wasn't really interested in making big, sweeping, massive changes. I wanted something simple, something that I could implement immediately. And a lot of what I learned came from the Graduate Certificate of Higher Education, which I've just finished. And basically, it's not just from what they taught, but how they taught it. Okay, I found it incredible how they managed to get through to a lot of their students. And I actually used a lot of these techniques in my own teaching. Other than that, I've read quite a few books, including Small Teaching by James Lang, which has had quite a bit of impact, and also Faculty Focus, online articles like Faculty Focus. I'm just pointing all these out because I haven't provided references for everything while I go along, just because I can't even remember half the sources of half the techniques I've used. But I do know it's from them. All right, so why do you want to make the effort to build a strong student-teacher relationship? Firstly, put yourself in the student's shoes. I'm sure some of you might be still students. If you have a good relationship with your teacher, you find it much more comfortable to be able to ask questions, to be able to answer questions, and also very importantly, to be able to challenge points of view. And this is something I really like in my classes, when the students actually challenge my points of view and keep me on my toes. It's good for them as well. So now when the students are able to do this, they naturally become more engaged with the unit, right? And this, as a result, increases their interest. It also improves or enhances their motivation to perform well the unit, just because, not only because they're more interested in the unit itself, but also because they can see that you're making an effort to engage with them. Now, this is all within the classroom, but even outside the classroom, I think it's really important that the students learn how to not only speak confidently to their peers, all right, but also somebody that they might consider an authority figure, higher ups, so to speak. And this was something I learned in my PhD with my supervisor, Amanda. Amanda used to have meetings where she had students or people she was supervising all the way from postdocs to PhDs to masters to honors to even first, second, and third year research students. And she created an environment in which all of them would challenge whatever her views are. All right. And she would ask even the second year research students, so what do you think? What's your opinion? Tell me. I'm actually interested. And that was an amazing environment to be in, because I came from a culture where I could not challenge authority figures. But after my PhD, I had the confidence to be able to speak, I believe, to anyone. All right. And that was an amazing experience. Outside of that, also, the students tend to be more open to providing feedback. Positive feedback is always good for the USS scores, but also constructive feedback for us to improve on later on. So what are some of these approaches? Firstly, can I close this? Is that all right? Yeah. The pre and early semester surveys. Now, I always send out some surveys to the students just before the semester starts, okay? Because I want to get their views and opinions on the unit structure and what they might expect from the unit. Now, this allows within limits for you to cater your unit towards your students. Now, some of you might say, and I wholeheartedly agree, that you've been teaching for a long time. I've already catered my unit based on student feedback over many years. But I still think this is a good idea to send out these pre-semester surveys, just because it gets your students involved in the unit before the semester even starts. But in order to do this, you need to make sure their voices are heard. All right. So how can you make sure that they feel that their voices are heard? Now, the way you do that, if you look at the second point over here, is just make a short video, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 4 minutes, going over the survey results and giving your opinions on it. So what I'd do is I'd make maybe a 2 to 3 minute video, go over the survey results and just tell them, oh, okay, so you've said this, and this is something I've already implemented into this unit, okay? Maybe that I'll try to implement into the unit, or I simply cannot because of certain, technical difficulties. Either way, you've pointed out that you've read their response and you've taken it into consideration, and that would make them feel like, okay, this unit is actually, not catering to me, but it connects to them better. Now, what kind of questions you ask would depend on the unit. What kind of content is it? Is it something with a lot of memorizing? Is it something with a lot of coding? So depending on that, your questions might be different. Also, the questions that you'd ask somebody in the first year is very different from the questions you'd ask from somebody in their fourth year, all right? Things like structure, like assessment structure and lecture structure could also impact this. So here are some questions I asked recently. This is a second year unit. Now, we're all just moving out of the whole COVID environment. We're getting in-person lectures. So I wanted to know, the whole the whole answer isn't here, but I wanted to know what type of lectures they would like. Would it be synchronous real-time lectures and synchronous real-time lectures, but online? Asynchronous pre-recorded lectures or electoral style? And I got their responses here. This was still early on, so I didn't get too many responses yet. I have more right now. So now I'll take into consideration what they feel that they want. Okay. And let's say I still think, even though only one person has said that they'd actually want to attend lectures, but I really want to deliver my lectures in person. I would then, while going over this, I would acknowledge that they've answered these two, but I'll also point out the pedagogical sense that I believe I would have if I were to follow this one. But I would also point out that if it'll be a trial for maybe a week or two, and I want to get their opinions again after the first couple of weeks, all right? And then I might change, depending on that. So they know that they're heard. These are just some other questions that I might ask. Really what type of questions this is would depend on your unit. Okay, so what would you like to take away from this unit? Tell me a time you felt especially passionate or engaged within a unit. When did you feel overwhelmed or disengaged within a unit? And I'd look through all these and respond to them. Now, early semester feedback is just simply some feedback you're getting over the first week or two, and you're simply asking, what do you think? All right. And just making sure everything's in check. Now, these are just some feedback I've gotten from the students in my USS surveys. And I think this really highlights something that I consider quite positive. I think that all the improvements were made over the course of the semester. It didn't start off well, but I made necessary changes based on feedback from the students. And this was, of course, not very difficult to make. It was wherever it was, they were quite simple changes. Okay, I'm not suggesting you make sweeping changes to your unit over the course of the semester. But if there are little changes you can make, which the students would appreciate, it's something you can think about. Now, point 2, weekly look-aheads. Now, weekly look-aheads are essentially courtesy reminders to the students saying, all right, these are the topics we'll be covering. This is why we're covering it. This is the importance of these. This is the importance of these topics. These are the deadlines you might want to consider. All right, it helps them stay on the ball, helps them stay connected to the unit. And every week, if you send this out every week, at the start of the week, they'll look and they'll remember, okay, I am connected to this unit. It makes them feel more engaged. It also gives you the opportunity to maybe step out of the whole, I'm an academic, all right, and just appear a bit more human. So how you can do that is essentially send them some memes. Okay, so I might send some memes. This is one on machine learning. Okay, some pictures of what you went through during the week. Okay, and this is just something easy for the students to feel connected with you. All right. So here's some sample feedback I've gotten. They enjoy the fact that I do give them these weekly look aheads, but this is just an email I got. Okay, and it's nice to get student emails, as we can see from this. They feel connected. They like these announcements that I'm sending out. All right, and one last thing, just because I realized I'm running out of time, we'll just look at the personalized emails. All right, so using student engagement relationship engagement system, which is SRES, it has a variety of functions. One of them is you can send personalized emails, and those personalized emails can be filtered based on specific criteria. Now, I'll just give you a quick example of a personalized email. Now, this is something I sent out to the students prior to the semester to the mid-semester break. Now, all the students got this first paragraph and these last few paragraphs. But because I completed the mid-semester test, or they completed the mid-semester test just before, you can see that I've given them a tailored email or a tailored paragraph based on what their score was. So if it's an HD, you might say, oh, that's a really good job. Okay, and I'd like to see more of this. Okay, and let's keep it going. But if it's something like a P or a fail, you might say, you know, I understand that it's challenging quiz, it was tricky. Okay, let's work on this together. Okay, and do the best we can. I know you can. I know you have the capacity to do better than that. All right, or not to do better than that, but to improve. Okay, so that's just, you know, depending on what their score is, you provide them specific feedback. And with that, I think I'll just show you a couple of, yeah, I'm done. Just some responses, emails I got during, by sending those emails out. As you can see, they've been very open with me about how positive that is. So thank you very much. And